This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
The mitzvah of Sefira Emor, the mitzvah that we're in the midst of right now, begins on the second day of Pesach. The question is, why does it begin the second day of Pesach? Why not the first day of Pesach? Why specifically the second day? Moreover, the Sefer HaChinuch writes at length in Mitzvah Shinvav that the idea, the message of Sefira Emor is to engender a yearning, pining for Kabbalas HaTorah. As we count down to Kabbalas HaTorah, we're showing our chayfetz, our hishtoikukos for Matan Torah. So why begin the second day of Pesach? We should begin the first day of Pesach. Rav David Cohen, Rosh Yeshiva of Hebron, has a new sefer called Lekach Dovid, and he quotes the sefer Shmua Tova, who brings a very beautiful idea, and based on this idea, Rav David Cohen answers this question of why Sefira begins specifically on the second day. The pasuk says in Shir Hashirim, Mashcheini acharecha narutza, draw me and I will run after you. Says the Targum on this pasuk that when Klal Yisrael left Mitzrayim, the Shechina walked before them, ba'amud anan, b'yoim, amud eish laila, and the Tzaddikei Hadar said, Ribono shalaylam, Mashcheinu acharecha tarutz, draw us, we'll run after you. Bring us to Har Sinai, give us the Torah, and we'll rejoice with the 22 letters of the Torah. From here we learn that the yearning and the pining and the hishtoikukos and the chayfetz of Klal Yisrael for the Torah came when they saw the Shechina reflected through the Ananei HaKavod, the Amud Anan, the Amud Eish. Now we could understand why Sefira Emor begins Mimachras HaPesach. On the first day that we left Mitzrayim, the pasuk says they left from Ramses to Sukkos. How did they get there? They got there al kanfei nesharim, on the wings of eagles. So when they went from Ramses to Sukkos, they didn't have Ananei HaKavod yet, because they were on the kanfei nesharim. On the second day, it says Vayisu misukos. Rashi says this came on Yom Sheni, and on that day it says Vashem hoylech lefneihem yoimam be'amud anan lanchoisam b'aderech v'layla be'amud eish l'hoyer lahem. So the Amud Anan and Amud Eish came on day 2 Mimachras HaPesach. And since the whole concept of Sefira is to engender hishtoikukos for Kabbalas HaTorah, and that began on the second day of Pesach. Because on the second day of Pesach, that's when the Ananei HaKavod came, and the Ananei HaKavod is what prompted Klal Yisrael to say, Mashcheini acharecha narutza. So on day 1, when they went on Kanfei Nesharim, they didn't yet have that Ratzon and Hishtoikukos to come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu on Har Sinai, so that we don't start counting Sefira. That Hishtoikukos and Chayfetz was engendered by the Ananei HaKavod, and that came on day 2, and therefore, says Rav David Cohen, we understand beautifully why Sefira Emor begins on day 2, and this gives us an added illuminative insight into the Ratzon and the Hishtoikukos we should be engendering during this man of Sefira until ultimately we get to the great day, as the Kazhan Tzemagid writes, Sama nafshi leiloikim, my soul thirsts for God, Lekeil, Kel is 31, Chai 18, those are the 49 days of Sefira. What is Sefira? Sefira is Sama Nafshi leiloikim. It's a yearning, it's a pining, it's a request. Masai avoi ve'ira pnei eloikim. If you could take a moment to go to our site, rabbidg.com, we're having a campaign now for a new binyan to be able to have a beis medrash and a place to broadcast the shiurim, and whatever you could do to be mishtatif in this makom Torah. Tavay alechem bracha. Wishing everyone a wonderful Shabbos.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.